Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Nathan Loyd. We're going to be discussing his amazing book, My Successful Failures, A Journey of 1,000 Steps. Now, it's available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. But people, if you want to gather everything that Mr. Loyd has in store, well, do yourself a favor and head directly to his personal site, mysuccessfulfailures.com. It's a one-stop shop for everything that he has in store. You're going to find out more information on him, more information on this fantastic narrative, as well as find the hyperlink set up to take you to the purchasing pages. So once again, that's mysuccessfulfailures.com. And quickly, I do want to point out that Mr. Loyd was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by one of the best publishers in the business, CITI of Books. People, I mean it. If you or anyone you know have written a book and you need help moving it, you got to contact CITI of Books, okay? They're one of the best in the business to do it. They specialize in taking your literary creation to the next level. Head on over to cityofbooks.com and gather more information on how they can help you move your book. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Mr. Loyd here on the line. And I love the title, right? My Successful Failures, because that in and of itself helps you shift your perception. Because when you hear about it, right, like those don't go together, right? It's like an oxymoron here, but it's wonderful. And when I was talking to Mr. Loyd on the pre-screening call, and we were going over one of the main messages, and he said something that was so profound that I'm actually going to steal it from him, okay? I got to give him his credit right now because he deserves it. But he was talking about how failure is beautiful. And people, when we stop and we just analyze that, my goodness, how many of us, and listen, you don't have to hold your hands up, I'll speak for myself. But I know, especially when I was younger, going through things, I would try to avoid mistakes as much as possible. I would try to go and travel down the safest path because I thought, listen, that's going to be the best way to go. Well, listen, here's the thing, people, and especially my artists out there, right? Anybody can relate, but especially my artists, because when you're an artist, you are traveling along a path that is filled with nonstop rejection. And so often we are afraid to put ourselves out there. We're afraid to take that leap of faith due to that fear of rejection. Well, people, let me tell you what I learned growing up and through so many moments of rejection and failure on my own path. There are no wins and losses in life. Okay, there are wins and there are lessons. And even in those dark moments, even in those moments of adversity, there is so much wisdom to be gained. And if you shift your perception, and believe me, I'll put it out there, I understand I'm oversimplifying, okay? For the sake of an interview, an oversimplification is what's necessary, people, but you get what I'm putting down, okay? If you shift your perception and you look at those quote-unquote losses and find the silver lining, find the lessons in them, listen, you're never losing a day in your life. I love that notion. I love this book, what it symbolizes, what it represents. And Mr. Loyd is the expert, okay? It's his life he's pulling from. He's going to be able to articulate it much better than I ever could. So let's bring him here with us and let's jump right in. Mr. Loyd, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
Very good, Mr. Benji Cole. Thank you. Pleasure to have me on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, it was a no-brainer, Mr. Loyd. When this book came across our desk and it was a possibility of having you on the network to discuss it, listen, we know, I know it seems like we're past this pandemic, and in large part we are. We're starting to get to a new normal now, but we know that there is enough adversity to go around between this pandemic, between the social divide. There's a lot happening right now, and this book is exactly what a lot of people need. My Successful Failures, A Journey of 1,000 Steps. Talk to us about your book, and I know it's a memoir, so it's going to cover your background anyway. Let's dive in.
Sure, thank you. Again, my book, My Successful Failures, Journey of 1,000 Steps, because it has been a journey of 1,000 steps. The journey still continues. I'm a married man with 6 children, 6 blessed children. I am second born. My dad is Kenyan, mom American. I know the same like Obama. I'm a well-seasoned entrepreneur, stemming back the last 3 decades. I've got involved in the mineral sector in Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. I've also got involved in the real estate sector in Rwanda, and the agricultural sector in Kenya with my factory and pack house in Kenya. And now we've also opened up shop in the USA. I think looking at when I think about what inspired me to write this book is when I saw the sadness and how we shy away from failure. Yet when I look back at my own personal journey, boy, have I failed. And we have the component of the lesson where sometimes, if you notice, you'll hear people say, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I have news for everyone listening. You never lose. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So once you learn the lesson, you never lose. That's why I mentioned there is beauty in failure. My book will focus mainly just in terms of 2 or 3 highlights. Will focus on those who dare to try and keep trying, and the value of learning from failures that can only come from success once you learn the lesson. We grow from failures, and that's the honest truth. I can safely say that we cannot change yesterday, but we can change tomorrow. How? Just learn the lesson. When I go through different challenges, we all go through different challenges every single week. Sometimes amidst the challenge, I'll stop and I'll ask God, what is the lesson? This one's not working out, but what is the lesson? Because there's a huge beauty once you get to understand also part of our blind spots. We have a lot of blind spots in life, but once you get to understand, sometimes you call them out yourself, or you'll have someone close to you who can call out what are your blind spots. So by finding your blind spots, you're able to better yourself and be able to improve yourself. That's also covered more in depth in my book, My Successful Failures. I would also look at when Benji, when we go through the airport, we go through what we call metal detectors.
Yeah.
But I'll encourage my listeners also from reading my book, you'll understand the value of having mental detectors. Now, the mental detectors are what builds up on our fears. A case in point, I'll say, you will have even in the acting world that you are in also, or any other aspect of business, entrepreneur, is you will realize that the negative thoughts try and creep in and saying it's not possible. You just can't do it. Listen to what other people are saying. So I have on board, my mind always has my mental detector switched on. So the same way at the airport we have security not to carry dangerous weapons onto the plane, we'll have the same situation. Don't carry dangerous thoughts into your mind, and don't allow them to sit in your mind and take away your courage. As it states also in the Bible, the 2 Timothy refers to, we were created in his image. By that, what we're being told is, by being created in his image means that we already have our gifts and our purpose inbuilt within us. So on that one, you learn more about how to switch on your mental detectors. There's also the value that will come from a litmus test, which one will be able to detect. In life, as my journey for the last 30 years, we know how to deal with our enemies or how to deal with our friends, but the most dangerous group, and you learn more how to have this litmus test, is be very cautious of your frenemies. Frenemies are the most dangerous group And because one has to learn how to deal with their frenemies. Enemies are simpler to deal with because you know how to deal with an enemy, which is just distance yourself. But the frenemies are the ones that are most dangerous. And in my business experience, life experience, these are the ones who have stolen people's dreams, and these are the ones who have robbed people from the gifts that they have within. So that you get more details in my book. So a little bit more about my book in terms of also writing my book. I did realize about 6 years ago that I need to put down this on paper, especially when I saw what other friends and family members and entrepreneurs were going through in terms of giving up and throwing in the towel, saying that they just can't handle this. Yet, so I said, I have to put this down on paper, and this is fully captured within my book. I got tons of resistance to publish my book. And the tons of resistance came, again, from feminists, mainly from them. So, but once you detect who is a feminist, you're able to overcome them, and that you can capture within my book. There are threats, including from a country that I transacted and did business in Rwanda. There were threats even for my life. And one of them was like, I quote, "We'll place your body where flies will never find you," if you give your side of the story of what went wrong from my failures. So my book is out. I am alive. Everything is going perfectly. I've grown from my failures, and I continue. What lesson would I learn from this specific country, like in Rwanda, would be understand the culture of the country before investing in the country. You can do business in USA, you can do business in Kenya or different parts, but unless you understand from those who have gone before you, do not assume to know. And I always tell my staff members, my team members, I said, there's nothing worse than pretending to know what you don't know. If I don't know, I don't know, and I look deeper into it.
Absolutely.
So again, my failures will focus on real success and real failures, not real failures, hands-on failures. The value of enjoying failures if you learn the lesson. I've learned the lesson several times. Learning the lesson is key to getting us into a level of betterness as opposed to bitterness. I've seen numerous thousands of people so bitter about the mistakes they made. Yet there's no way you will change yesterday, but you can change tomorrow again, I repeat, if you learn the lesson. And within my book, it's how do you learn the lesson and how do you capitalize on that failure that is actually turned into success. In fact, my own personal part and people I transact and do business with, the ones who come and say, by the way, I've never failed, I'm actually no longer interested in discussing them. But the ones who come and say, boy, I failed big time. Because from somebody who admits that they have failed several times means that they have learned the lesson behind it and other aspects that are within my book. So those would be, if you want, there's like that. I'm a big fan of country songs. One of the songs that says, if you want to find silver or gold, go look in the mountains. I'm not going to sing it. I'm not that good. I don't have a good voice to sing yet. If you want to find heaven, go look in the Bible. So my advice also to the group listening, if you want to find about business or entrepreneur, speak to those who have gone before you, those who have successfully failed and learned the lesson. I have situations where, as a Christian, I see different businessmen, entrepreneurs seeking advice from a pastor. The pastor does not have the advice unless they're involved in business to understand the dynamics of what it entails to get involved in business. So I respectfully will speak to my pastors related to my spiritual journey, but not related to business, because, again, there's nothing worse than pretending to know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think people who have failed, the people who have failed and failed several times are the ones who have learned, usually have learned the lesson, but have also shed light on how they will be able to overcome this and use their failures to their advantage. For me, when I look at the epidemic right now that was just outcome, we looked at the heroes of. We talked about the nurses, the police force, in terms of what they call the fast responders. If you actually ask me, and which I'll cover, the real heroes in my part are actually the entrepreneurs, because the entrepreneurs are the ones that have been able to also create employment, have been able to drive the U.S. economy. The entrepreneurs and the small businesses, medium businesses, they run the world. Even the U.S., as dynamic as the U.S. is, without the entrepreneurs, those for me were the fast responders, because even hospitals also are a form of entrepreneurs, but the ones who are looked at as being the fast responders, the unsung heroes in my part, as we move out of COVID, are really the entrepreneurs, not only myself, but others who have really been movers and shakers and have changed the world one day at a time. Another aspect that's covered most in my book will be about the value of persistence, following through and following up. All I tell my team members and anyone, other group members that I mentor, it's not about trying to get to 50% in a month. It's about trying to just do 1% every day. That's all. All my team members know that if they did 1% on Monday, 1% on Tuesday, and then now today's Friday, that will be 5% better than where you were. And keep in mind, you will never have zero. So you're 5% better than where you were. Another aspect also, which I dive quite deeply into my book, the value of what I call QT, quiet time. We have become such a distracted nation worldwide, not only the USA. We're distracted by our gadgets, we're distracted by the TV, we're constantly distracted without having time to yourself. I have my 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., which is my me time, my prayer time, my planning time, my meditation time, and my growth time. So it's just during that 1 hour, the victory hour, with no gadgets. I have my phone set up in another part of the house. I don't have access to them, so that there'll be no interruption. It is that time that you get to know who you are created to be. You connect with your soul. You're able to understand, and also during that time is when it comes to me as another the mistake of yesterday. Oh, that was the lesson. That was another failure turned into success. So, and yet the third part is, Benji, we have such a fast-paced life that we look at busy as being a good thing. It's really not. You have to find who you are.
Right.
Sometimes you'll also take through a small test I do. Sometimes when I mentor, I speak to different group members. I say, tell me, who are the 10 people you would like to meet in this world, including myself. So I'm also putting myself on the spot. You'll realize you'll go down the list of the 10 people, but the one person that you need to meet that you do not meet, and I'll tell you, it's in my book how to do it, you need to meet yourself. It might sound awkward, but we can go. I've seen friends, family members go through life without meeting. Who are you? Who is Benji? Who is Nathan? So it is during those quiet times you continue to connect, and there's beauty, total beauty in simplicity. Slow down, have that victory, quiet time. It is essential. It's also in the Bible, Psalms 46:10. Be still and know that I'm God, is a reference to we must slow down with no distractions. I even speak to my kids, one of my 6 kids, and I tell them that you need to put your gadgets aside. You need to connect with who you are to be able to grow and build yourself. So this is, I found, and also covered within my book, that one of the 10 people you would like to meet, one of them better be you, better be yourself. And people say, no, I know who I am. You don't really know who you are unless you spend time with yourself.
Yeah.
We get so distracted that we want the TV on, we want the news on, we want every single thing, all the social media, just so that we can hide away from who we are. But once you find out who you are and actually fall in love with who you are, you have a much better relationship with yourself and also with every other transaction, every other people that you interact with.
People, there's so much to unpack. I think the easiest word and the main thing that comes to mind is wow. Okay? Wow. And here's the thing. We've barely scratched the surface. right? We have gone through so much, but we've barely scratched the surface. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, mysuccessfulfailures.com is where you have to go. I'm telling you, this is a book that needs to be on everyone's shelf. If you're not failing often, you're not trying, okay? If you're not making mistakes often, you're not trying hard enough, right? You're not putting yourself out there enough. It should be one of those things where you should wake up every day and ask yourself, what mistakes am I going to make today? What mistakes can I make today? What can I fail at today? Because I think also there's value in that, right? When you start to shift your perception and you look for those mistakes, you look for those failures, understand what I'm saying here, people. You're putting yourself out there, right? If you're making mistakes often, if you're failing often, that means you're trying often. That means you're putting yourselves in positions where, hey, you might fall short, but you know what? At least you tried. There are a lot of dangers in complacency. And failing often is something that we should all be striving for, which is why when he says my successful failures, people, that carries weight, okay? That goes so far beyond just those words. The only other question that I can ask, because this entire interview has just been filled with gems and filled with advice. Well, now let's shift gears and let's offer words of wisdom to a different group. Mr. Loyd, you are someone, now I know this is your first book. I'm hoping it isn't your last because there needs to be more on the horizon, okay? We need to get more from you. But I know that this is your first book, but first book or last book, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is you are a bona fide author. You've been through the process, you've written the narrative, and you also have gone through the process and the gauntlet, rather, of getting it published. So for any new writers out there listening in right now, Mr. Loyd, what are some words of wisdom that you can offer to them about that writing journey they're getting ready to take?
Thank you, Benji. Again, I'll look at what also inspired myself in terms of you might be sitting there and saying, I've goofed up, I've messed up, I'm done. It's never too late. It's never too late. It's never to be able to pick yourself up and say, learn the lesson. As opposed to, there's nothing worse than sitting back and mellowing in self-pity and bitterness. It changes nothing. It just takes you even further back. So the value of capturing, and if you're an upcoming author, capturing what you have learned and focus on the failures and the growth from that failure. So, and again, you'll capture within my book how to tap into your greatness. Interesting enough, do you know that in the Bible uses the word fear 365 days, 365 times, and yet we have 365 days in the year. So we need to stop living by fear and start living by faith. One of my other quotes that I enjoy and I've used it for myself even as an entrepreneur is, feel the fear and do it anyway. I ask myself, am I fearful of what I'm about to do? Yes, I am. Then I go forward and I do it. I don't know if you know it just requires you to be brave for 20 seconds. I could ask Benji a question that I'm fearful, but I'll ask him, and from that, it will open up everything else. So by doing that, just feel the fear and do it anyway. What age range? I would say it's never from 18 years old to 65 years old plus, because it's never too early and it's never too late. Another aspect that is very valuable for the upcoming authors or those who want to now propel forward in the different as entrepreneurs. Always remember the solution. Always remember that the solution is within the problem. Even when you're in a heated debate or discussion or negotiation, God gifted us with 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means He wants us to listen more and talk less. Always remember, and I do that. I had several heated discussions, business negotiations. I'll keep quiet and I'll listen. The solution is actually in the problem. So by looking at that and seeing that another aspect I'd take away. Prayer must be followed with action. We cannot have prayer alone. I've seen my fellow brothers and sisters who will pray tremendously. I'm not shooting down prayer, but prayer without action is what we have a statement that when one goes to, let's say one's involved in an accident and gets to the body, the person arrives at the hospital, the doctors will confirm if the person has passed away. They'll call it dead on arrival. Ladies and gentlemen, prayer without action is dead on arrival. And take heart for those who are getting criticized, including myself over the years. I have been criticized tremendously for my failures. There is no monument anywhere in the world that has been built in remembrance of a critic. None. There is no monument anywhere in the world that has been built in remembrance of any critic. So if you're failing, smile, because that means you're trying. You're getting back up again, smile, that means you're trying. So don't let anyone, family even, especially family, if they have not been able to do it, to shoot you down and say it's just not possible. Maybe they couldn't do it, does not mean you can't do it.
Absolutely.
It is extremely possible. I've been able to do it through my journey of 1,000 steps, and I'm continuing beyond my 1,000 steps. So it is possible. We are gifted. We have it within us. We just have to find our purpose to require time and go by the 1% per day. And I assure you, your failures will be turned into success. Read more in my book, My Successful Failures. Thank you.
We've done a 360. We're back where we started. You know what you have to do, okay? Fail often, okay? As he said, as I said, when you're failing, that means you're trying. Listen, if this hasn't moved you, you're asleep. I don't know. You got to wake up because there is so much wisdom here. Nathan Loyd is the author you have to thank. My Successful Failures, A Journey of 1,000 Steps is the book you have to pick up. And once again, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, MySuccessfulFailures.com are the places you have to go to purchase. A fantastic resource to add to your shelf, an even better gift to add to someone else's. So head on over there, start the movement, and start the discussions in your circle. Because imagine the world we would have if everyone thought like that. If everyone viewed life from that perspective. My goodness. Mr. Loyd, this has been an absolute pleasure. Such an honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Wonderful. Very nice. Thank you.